Welcome back to the Unraveled Podcast. My name is Nina.
And my name is Alina.
And today I think we want to talk about investment property, investment opportunities.
And flipping. Yes.
So I know that you have a lot of experience with that. You work with clients and investors that flip property. So tell me a little bit about your experience and share some stories.
You know, it's interesting. Me and my siblings used to buy and flip properties. It's probably been like maybe 7 or 8 years since we've done it together. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy. Like I don't talk about the story enough because I think it's hilarious. So at the time we decided to buy 3 properties at the same time. I don't know what we were thinking, especially this was our first time ever investing in real estate as well. So we're like, yeah, we'll buy 3 properties. So we bought these 3 properties.
Easy.
2 of them were next door to each other, but they were like an hour away from where we lived.
Okay.
One of them, we were living in the home while we were renovating it. All three was just a nightmare. Number one, never live in a home that you're flipping or renovating. It's just a mess. Because you'll come home and there'll be sawdust on your bed and drywall dust on your bed. It was just a mess. And by the time we finished flipping it, it was right, and it was ready to go on the market. It was right when COVID had just started forming. So nobody knew what the market was going to do. Nobody was really buying any real estate. Like, it was just a mess. Mm-hmm. So we didn't even make it. I think we actually probably lost some money on that one. Mm-hmm. And then the one that we actually made money on actually burned down.
Stop.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
What happened?
So this is the property that was like an hour away. Okay. We actually ended up putting both of them up for sale because we didn't have time to do them, and COVID was happening. Well, we didn't know at the time it was COVID. Mm-hmm. But there's just a weird shift in the market. So we're like, we'll just put them up for sale. We don't have time to work on them. We're just now getting this one up for sale. So we put them both on the market. One of them sold pretty quickly. The other one, it just kind of sat on the market for a little longer. And, but you know, we didn't really care. But when we had it on the market, someone that I know drove by and they called me like, hey, your house is on fire. I was like, what do you mean? She was like, yeah, your house is on fire. The police department.
Wait. So it was on the market for sale.
Yeah.
Not sold.
Yeah. Not sold.
Girl.
And yeah, someone that I knew drove by and was like, hey, your house is on fire. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, yeah, your house is on fire. I drove by this morning on my way to work and it's on fire. The police department's there. I stopped what I was doing. I literally hopped in my car and drove an hour over there to go look at this house, and it was burnt to the ground.
Hopefully you had insurance.
Yes, we did. Okay. Of course. Yeah. And it was burnt to the ground. Fire department had already left at that point. But it was like completely burnt to the ground. And yes, we had insurance, but when you've never dealt with a situation like that before, you're just freaking out because you don't know like what's supposed to happen. Mm-hmm. So my sister dealt with all of that. She contacted the insurance company and let them know. And we made more money that way than we did when we were trying to sell it. It was the weirdest thing. Mm-hmm. Because the insurance company compensated us for what the value of the home would have been, mm-hmm. If they were to reconstruct it, basically. Yeah. And then they did that. Then they also I think they also compensated us as well to have it, like all like not torn down. Like, what is it called?
All the demo stuff.
Yes, they compensated for that as well. And then we just had the land. So we just sold the land, mm-hmm. which is like 2 acres. So we made more profit that way than what we would have made mm-hmm. if we had sold on the market. And it sold really quick when it was just the land for sale.
Yeah.
But that was just crazy because obviously we still don't know to this day like what happened, why it burned down. I mean, honestly, the house was so like decrepit. Obviously, it was supposed to be a flip. Someone mm-hmm. could have been living there and burned it down. Some kids could have been playing around and just burned it down. I have no idea.
The electrical system could have failed and it just caught fire.
Yes, but it was so crazy. The house just literally burnt down out of nowhere. Nobody knows what caused it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. So we have not bought and flipped any more property together since then.
You guys were traumatized?
I would say we were traumatized. Honestly, like, again, that was the best experience we had because it was unfortunate. It was crazy. It was unexpected. Mm-hmm. But that's where we made the most money, weirdly enough. Mm-hmm. So that was a really weird experience that we had. And then, we learned that we do not work well. Like, me and my siblings, again, are just really close, but we learned that we do not work well together. Like, we all have our specific avenues. Like, I'm supposed to take care of the renovations, the designing the floor plan, picking out the finishes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then my sister is supposed to handle the finances, the budget, all of that. And then my brother's supposed to handle doing the contractors. And we just all seem to like cross over each other and, step in each other's
Too many cooks
lanes.
in the kitchen?
Yes, too many cooks in the kitchen. And it just did not work well with us trying to do it together. So I haven't bought any, flipped any. My sister has done some new construction and just bought and flipped some properties over time. And I've helped her with reselling them and occasionally helping her pick out the finishes and stuff. But other than that, we've learned that we do not work well together in that capacity.
I think, some people might assume that flipping property is easy or just finding deals is easy, but it's really not.
At all.
Because I think a lot of people that are not experienced in that arena underestimate what the cost of the renovation is going to be, or they underestimate the potential issues that may arise. Like you might look at the numbers generally and think, oh, the return on that's pretty good. But without really having experience or knowing, you don't know if you're going to have to replace all the flooring, the subfloor, the beams. I mean, there's a variety of things that a seasoned investor or a flipper is going to look at. And that's why they're offering the prices they are, because they know, okay, obviously they need to make money. Otherwise they wouldn't be doing it.
Correct.
Then also, hey, is this going to be a $25,000 renovation? Like, put lipstick on it? Or is this going to be a $70,000 renovation?
Correct. And then you got to compensate. Then I think you're supposed to estimate maybe 20 to 30% over what your reno budget is for the hiccups that could potentially happen, or any changes or things that may have to be done that you don't expect. So really, even if you plan on 70,000, you need to increase that by another 20 to 30%. And worst case scenario, you don't need that extra money for the reno. That's more money in your pocket, but it's still better to plan for it and account for it as if you're going to need it than to need it and it be a surprise.
And, some investors have a crew that takes care of all of that. And obviously they have savings there when it comes to the flip.
Correct.
But for a person that doesn't have their own crew and they're
going to spend more money.
They're going to spend more money because they're hiring contractors and subs individually. It's always going to take longer than you think. And it's probably always going to cost more than you think it's going to cost.
This is true.
But, if you watch TV shows or different things, it seems so glamorous. Oh yeah, buy something off market for $50,000, sell it for $1 million. No. Yeah.
But even finding those deals are so exclusive because you kind of have to know the right people, or you have to put in a ton of work in cold calling or scavenge or mailing letters out and just scavenging the market, off market stuff to find them. Because stuff that's on the market that are really good flips usually goes like this, or they're sold before they even technically hit the market. You just see them on the market as already under contract or sold.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at least for the last, I would say 2 years or so or more, there's not really been any quote unquote deals, on the market. And if that's where I think it's kind of funny to watch new investors or people that are flipping for the first time. They think something's such a great deal. And it's like, and you go ahead.
I know. And I work with so many investors in different ways in terms of all of them do something different, which it fascinates me how they do this because I've never done it in that capacity. When me and my siblings bought, we had the cash to buy the properties and flip them. So I've never had to do a partnership with a third party or any other unique situation. So I've had some investors that have been able to negotiate. Actually, this investor didn't actually work with me at all. This is someone that I knew. He was able to negotiate a rent to own situation with the owner, which I think is incredibly unique and really cool because he didn't have to put any cash. I mean, I think he paid maybe $500 a month in rent. And he didn't have to put a down payment down or anything. So he renovated this property with his cash, of course, but he didn't have to buy the property first or close on it or do anything special. He just did rent to own, renovate it, flipped it, and made $30,000. I feel like there's so many different unique ways that you can purchase real estate and invest in real estate without spending your own money.
Definitely. I mean, there's creative financing, there's ways around things here. So either you have to learn that yourself.
Yes.
And let me tell you, it takes a long time. Or
oh my gosh, doesn't
you better connect with a realtor or realtors that already are seasoned in that, because it's definitely, we all run in the same circles, So, but if somebody doesn't want to use a realtor, that's totally fine. But there's a lot of niche things you have to understand, whether you're buying something as a foreclosure, something on the auction step, something off market,
Correct.
How you're going to finance that, how you're going to take title to that, is there probate, Are
Like,
there
even
additional liens? I mean, there's
Yeah.
so many things.
even when you mention auctions, like that's a whole different ball field.
Mhm.
Auctions and foreclosures. I'm aware of how the process works. Have I ever done it? Would I assist someone in doing it? No, because I don't know. I've never
real
done it before. It
complicated.
is very complex.
Mhm.
But there's other agents that I know that know how to go to the auctions and
Yeah.
buy real estate for their client, or will sit there throughout the day or call the attorney's office and whatnot. And that's great. They're seasoned in that part of the business, but I'm not. I couldn't do that for somebody because I just don't know. I would be like, hey, I'm going to send you to this chick because she actually knows how to do it.
Yeah, I don't go to the auction steps. What I do for my clients is we find them before they go to the auction steps. So giving the homeowner the opportunity to make a little bit of profit if the numbers work out on both
Right.
sides, versus going to auction and then having a foreclosure on their records. But regardless whether you do that before,
That's still a lot of scouting.
it's a lot of scouting. So it's a lot of off-market work. But then even once you get somebody who says, hey, yes, I would like to take this offer, you connect the investor and the seller. There's so many steps when it comes to ensuring that, hey, do we need to get that foreclosure postponed? You know, how can we close before the foreclosure?
Right.
So it's a multi-step process, which it's possible, and deals are still possible to find, but it's not as easy as maybe the internet or TV makes it out to be.
No, and I don't think I think when people, what's the best way I can say this? I feel like easy doesn't exist for something that you want to be really profitable and you want to thrive very well. If anyone has the mindset of, oh, I'm going to do this because it's easy, like, you're not in it for the right reason. You can be in it because I want to make a lot of money. Sure, that makes sense. But easy isn't going to, I feel like you trying to take the way of easy isn't ever going to get you there. I truly believe, and I've said this before in probably another episode, that you can do whatever you want to do. You just got to put the work in and put the time in and do it. And there's so many different ways to invest in real estate without your own money, with your money, like whatever. There's so many ways to do it. You just got to find the right people to connect with, do enough research to really know how to do it. There was at one point where I was like, okay, I want to invest in real estate by myself without my siblings. And I sat down with probably 4 or 5 different investors and was like, hey, how are you doing this? Like, can you show me the ropes? And they all were like more than willing enough to show me how to do it and talk me through it. And I was like, you know what? There's a lot of stuff. This is not for me. So I was like, at that point, it's not for me at this time. Yeah. Maybe down the road, I may consider it later on, but I did enough research to be like, okay, this is not something I want to do. This is a lot of work. Yeah. And I, at that point, was like, I'm not willing to put in this kind of work to do this. That's great that you are. Clearly, this is your cup of tea. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. I will take that into consideration. I may even use it down the road, but right now, for me, it's not for me. Yeah. And, but again, like, you just got to talk to the right people and learn the game to really decide if this is something that you want to do. Like, just don't talk about doing it. Like, this goes back to complaining. You can talk and complain about all this stuff all the time, but what are you going to do about it? Are you going to actually try to pursue it and do it, learn about it? Or are you just going to talk about it all the time and say, oh, I wish I could do this. I wish or I hope that I could do this, but you're not putting any effort to try to even accomplish it.
You know, it's funny. As somebody who does a lot of off-market property and foreclosure properties, I can read a faker so fast. Sometimes I go to these events and there's either people who say they're investors or realtors who are claiming that they do off-market investment property. And you can just tell the way they're talking.
Right.
They absolutely do not. They don't have a clue. Right. I don't say anything. I'm just there like sipping my drink. Okay. You know, but what most people don't realize is when it comes to the off-market properties, it probably takes going through, 40 to 60 no's to get a yes, as far as
actually, I'm surprised only 40 to 60. I've actually heard the ratio is like 1 out of 100.
Well, if you start to, closing your margins beforehand, so only certain ages of homes, certain non-negotiables. But even if they want to sell it, the numbers may not work for the investor client to make a profit.
That's true.
So you have to go through a lot of data, a lot of properties to find the one. And then if you are constantly sending these properties to investors that are a waste of time, they're not going to take you seriously. You have to really, really analyze the deal
and have the numbers ready for them.
And then some investors' margins are different than others. But if generally it's a good deal, then somebody will usually take that opportunity. Right. But you only learn that through trial and error. Yeah. And experience.
Because I don't want to do all of that. I do work with a lot of wholesalers. There's one here in Athens that's a good friend of mine. They do some wholesaling, And, but I also have like other people that send me deals from Atlanta and all over the place. And when they send them over to me, they're like, hey, here's the ARV. This is this is what they want. Here are some pictures, da, 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 da. And I'm like, you've got to have you got to have those specs ready.
Yeah.
For a real estate agent or an investor to be able to, for them to be able to make a sound decision on, hey, is this worth the investment? And yes, you might have sent me the ARV on it, but I still need to pull my own numbers
because
just to make sure.
Let me tell you sometimes about their ARV.
It can be off. It can be off. And I'll tell you one thing: if you screw up and you send and your investor buys a piece of property with the wrong kind of numbers that you gave them, that's going to be on you technically.
100%.
Like obviously they can't sue you over it. They could have still done the research, but realistically that's your name on the line. That's your business on the line. And you're not going to get that you're not going to get that listing when he relists it. That's the word. You're not going to get that listing when it's time for him to relist the property, and also any more business from him because you burned that relationship because you didn't do your research and pull the right numbers.
Yeah. And this is not referring to the person you were talking about, but there are many out of Atlanta that don't know their numbers or they're just making stuff up.
Right.
And then they get upset that none of my investors want to buy their supposed deal because guess what? It's not a deal at all.
Yeah.
You just didn't run the numbers correctly. You don't know the numbers.
Yep.
So you can't be upset at me because I'm not going to allow my investors, I'm not even going to send it to them because it's laughable.
Yeah.
You know, no, if no one can make a profit on it, why would they buy it?
This is true.
So.
True. I've worked with some investors in the capacity of like where I've, gotten them acquired properties for them to flip. And obviously I have no desire to do that side of real estate. I don't have the energy to put in that kind of work, but I do have the energy to help them pick out the finishes, pick out the floor plans. And I don't do any of that for free either. I charge them like 10% of what the Reno budget is, which I like doing that part of it. And I'm more okay with it because I don't have any skin in the game. Yeah. It's just me doing something that I truly enjoy doing, which is
it's like partially like the designer.
Exactly. Yeah. So they utilize me as a designer also because I know the market. Yeah. And I've pulled the after repair value for them. So they'll be like, hey, these are the kind of finishes that you need in there. Yeah. And the clients that I've done that for usually live out of the state. So I'm helping them hire the contractors. I'm getting quotes for them. I'm doing like every bit of boot on the ground work for them because that way they can just get a little check after the close. They can come and fly in, close, be done. And I've handled all of the work for them here. So I enjoy doing that. But again, I would rather not have any skin in the game and actually, I've got burned literally.
Yeah. I mean, but then it goes back to what we talk about all the time. Why it's so important as an investor or a seller who you hire as a realtor. Because you might hire a realtor and you're paying them and they don't know they don't know the market. They don't know how to help you, direct you when it comes to the design, what fixtures are popular, what styles, what colors you're selling. Or you can hire a realtor that is knowledgeable and skilled.
Correct.
It's much more bang for your buck.
Correct. And it's not even our job to do those things, but it offers more value. Correct. I mean, you're going to pay someone for a service. You might as well pay them. You might as well pay someone who's willing to go the extra mile and do those things. Yeah. 100%. And who has the experience or the specialty or the knowledge of being able to help you get the job done at the end of the day.
Yeah. And you can look back and see, look, this person has successfully done this consistently over time. They know what they're doing. They're good at their job. They'll go the extra mile. That's really the realtor you want to connect with as a consumer.
Correct. And I know we talked about things a lot from the agent perspective, but even with financing, I feel like that's a whole nother, which we should actually bring a lender on here to talk about the financing options for investment property that people don't even realize. With investment property, sometimes there's so many different avenues for financing that. And I say financing more like going through the traditional mortgage lender, where sometimes you only have to have 20% down, depending on your credit score or record or how much you expect the property to resell for. A lot of lenders sometimes only require 20% down. It just really depends on a lot of different factors, but it's not that difficult. It's not as difficult as people may think it is to obtain financing to do the flip. But then the difficult part is figuring out the after repair value and doing the actual flip, having the contractors. Like let me rephrase this. The whole thing is difficult, but there are some easier parts of it than not. Like some people are probably thinking, oh, I probably need like 50% down or I have to pay cash for the real estate. But no, you don't. There's options available.
And actually, if I'm thinking about, you talk about parts are easier and parts more difficult. If the deal is a good deal, if the numbers make sense, you'll probably be able to get anyone to finance it.
That's true.
Whether it's a typical loan, whether it's private money. So the big thing is locating that deal, knowing your numbers when it comes to the renovation costs, your holding costs.
Very true.
Can it be profitable? If it's a deal and it's profitable, you probably won't have any problem getting financing.
That's actually very true. And like I said, even the owner financing route, if that's an option, like that is the best route to take. Obviously, you have an agent who knows how to draft an appropriate contract for an owner financing to protect both parties. But that's a phenomenal opportunity for investment property.
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps up our time for today. Thank you again for joining us. We will be back every Wednesday. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts and on social media. Thanks for listening and for watching.